what is financial independence? It's when without your input, your money can support you. That's automatic. It's automatically supporting you. You don't have to put in labor or effort anymore. You can retire. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay in the back row? I assume Kevin will call me out if he can't hear me, but thank you. All right. So welcome to Automagic, Flexibility, Tiller, Financial Independence, and You. Okay, really it's about me and how I use Tiller, but that was a better title. So I am your host, Stephanie or Stephanie. I go by online. And yes, Poorer Than You. It's not just a declaration, though in a FI crowd, I'm usually still on the low end, but it is also the name of my blog. So if you haven't had a chance to get to know me or know me from being on the internet for let's not do that calculation. But so many years. I am an operations and inventory manager for a small e-commerce site by day and a personal finance FI enthusiast, a volunteer treasurer for a small nonprofit, and a wife and mom of 2 little kids by night, which just means spreadsheets by day and spreadsheets by night. I do a lot in spreadsheets. And if you think I don't use spreadsheets to manage those 2 little kids, I think you might be at the wrong talk. Anyway, so before we talk about this tool Tiller, which you may or may not have heard of, I want to have a framework to think about financial independence while we talk about it. So what is financial independence? It's when without your input, your money can support you. That's automatic. It's automatically supporting you. You don't have to put in labor or effort anymore. You can retire. It's freedom and flexibility. You can do what you like now that you don't have to put input in to your money to support yourself. And it's wealth. It's ownership and control of those assets so that you can do these things. So I just want you to keep those 3 concepts in mind while we talk about a spreadsheet tool. I know. We'll get back to how they relate. But automation, freedom and flexibility, ownership and control. So what is Tiller Money? Some of you may not have even heard of it. It is not an app or software. It is a tool for importing your financial data into your spreadsheets that you own. This can be either Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. It's a little bit more robust in Google Sheets. You know how like sometimes a company will develop an app for Android and then like they'll also have an iPhone app, but like it was definitely an afterthought to do it for both platforms. It's kind of like that for Tiller. They built it for Google Sheets and they also have it for Excel, but you're usually better off using Google Sheets. But if you're an Excel person, you absolutely can use it in Excel. It is also a community sharing spreadsheets and brainstorming solutions for spreadsheets. So you can download spreadsheets other community members have made. So Tiller is often described, especially on Reddit, as the best option for power users. But I take issue with the fact that it's often painted as only being for power users. I am obviously a person who uses a lot of spreadsheets, but I wouldn't consider myself a power user of spreadsheets. I Google when I need to know how to do a thing. I always Google it. Sometimes even things I've done a lot of times before. So I'm going to show you how you can use Tiller even if you have never edited a spreadsheet, and you won't have to learn how to edit a spreadsheet formula to use Tiller. So why would someone use this spreadsheet tool to import their data? So Tiller is your money data, like Mint or other programs similar that you may have used. It gets your money data, it gets your transactions and your balances, and it puts those directly, automatically into a spreadsheet. It gives you freedom and flexibility because it's putting that data into a very flexible tool. And it gives you ownership and control of your data and calculations. One of the criticisms of Tiller is that it's paid. You pay for it. It's not free, like Mint was free. But you may have heard this saying before. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. They're selling your data if you're not paying for something. You don't pay for Facebook, you're not Facebook's customer, you're its product, your data. is its product that they're selling to advertisers. Mint was the same. I can pick on Mint a lot now that it's gone. It's great. I can bash it. What are they going to do? But they were, I was a Mint user too. They were selling my data and I didn't have ownership and control over my data. I could download it. You could kind of like export, but in Mint, I didn't have control over what they did with it or how long they kept it. I lost some data out of Mint. I thought they were keeping it for years. They weren't. I tried to look back at what I spent on bars and restaurants in my 20s, and I couldn't, even though I was using Mint to track it that whole time. They weren't keeping my data for me to look back at. So, how do you use Tiller Money, especially if you're not a spreadsheet user? I'm going to talk about connecting those accounts if you've never used a tool like Mint to connect your accounts. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that works and what Tiller gives you at the beginning, which is called the Tiller Foundation Template. It's just a spreadsheet that you open in Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. And it works like a lot of other spreadsheets, but it's got a lot in it from the get-go. So connecting your financial accounts, if you've never done something like this is what Tiller looks like when you get the foundation spreadsheet into Google Sheets. And you get a sidebar extension right in Google Sheets, very easy to open, where you can add your accounts directly from there. You can also do it from their website. This uses a service, I believe we agreed on Yodlee as the pronunciation. I didn't have to say it out loud before this talk. I was just on the internet. So I know what it is, but I'm like, oh no. So Yodlee, a lot of other services use this as well if you're automatically connecting accounts to get that information from your bank accounts. Tiller does not see or store your bank credentials. It gets a read-only token. It can read the information and put it in the spreadsheet from Yodlee. And there's more information. I'm not a cybersecurity expert, so I'm not going to touch on this for very long. Just if you've never used something like that, that's how that works. So they cannot make transactions on your accounts or access your money in any way. They can only just see the balances and transactions to put it in your spreadsheet. There's no one looking at this. It's encrypted, but the service is putting it in there for you. So once your data is connected, Tiller starts filling in your data. And you do not have to read this spreadsheet. It's just there for the visual. But you still have that sidebar of Tiller, and it starts bringing in all of your transaction data, the date, the place, all of that for you to have in this foundation template. And then you immediately start getting insights into what's going on with your money in the spreadsheet. And Tiller does a bit of a look back when you first import your data. It sometimes depends on the bank. You might get 30 to 90 days of past transactions, as well as your current balance. So you immediately start to get some insight, but as you use it, you will get more and more as new transactions come in. You can, but I give the caveat, don't have to, categorize your spending. Another criticism of Tiller is it takes a really long time to set up. Any tool, you're going to have to do the connecting of your accounts, put your information in so it knows. If you're a budgeter and you want to use the budgeting functions of Tiller, you can use the AutoCat tool to start setting up automatic categorization of your spreadsheets. I say this mostly because I don't budget. I know there's probably some YNAB fans clutching your pearls right now, but you need a budget. It's right in the name, but I don't budget. I take care of the big stuff, and then I'm just generally frugal with the rest. So I don't do this, but I think it works in a very clever way. You can set up simple rules like this, like, oh, it's Huckberry, it's gear and clothing. Or you can use their advanced rule builder to do more nuanced ones. I love this one. It's if the description contains shell, but it's less than $10, I didn't get gas. I got snacks or coffee. So you can set up these nuanced rules with a lot of criteria, and it will start automatically categorizing your transactions as they come in. And then once you do that, you can get a monthly budget view. And this is all in the foundation template. This is the spreadsheet that you get right out of the box. You notice we haven't done anything except some drop downs, and that's it. And this is all flowing right in there. You can plan and track a debt payoff journey. There's a tab for debt payoff planner. And so if you're in the middle of debt payoff, you tell it which accounts are your debts, you type in the interest rate, and you can select from the dropdown, compare a snowball plan to an avalanche plan. How do I want to pay off my debt? How soon would I pay it off? How much would I pay? You get a pretty graph. Love a pretty graph. And do all of that right in the basic spreadsheet. Again, still check boxes and drop downs and typing basic information. Haven't edited a formula yet. You can also elect to get a daily email of your transactions and your balances so that you have alerts as to what's going on in your account. You can make sure you have enough left in your checking for any spending you need to do. Though I know most of you are on the points credit cards, it's fine. But also that watching out for fraud, to me, is the most important thing, is to have a way to watch out for fraudulent activity on your accounts, especially if you've been doing bank bonus churning and travel hacking and you have a lot of accounts. It's great to have them connected and get an alert every day if something's happening in there. All right, so let's start tinkering a little bit with Tiller, but I'm going to keep it light. We still are not going to edit any formulas in the spreadsheet. None at all. So, Tiller Community Solutions. I mentioned that Tiller is a community as well. There are people making spreadsheets for Tiller. There's people at Tiller making new spreadsheets, and you can access them all right in the sidebar. This is a screenshot taken directly from my Tiller Foundation template sidebar. This is me looking at which community solutions are available now. There's a fire category. I don't know if you can read that. It's kind of small, but this is in the fire category. There's a retirement planner in there. There's only a few though, so I'm hoping some of you walk away from this talk and write some more community solutions to upload for Tiller. You can install this. It takes one button down there at the bottom, add to spreadsheet. Just add it, and it is added right into your Tiller Foundation template. It's not even a separate file. You have it right there with all your other financial data. And it uses that data. This is built by someone in the community. You can select which accounts are my FI accounts that I want to count in this number. And you tell it, what year was I born? What interest rate do I want to use for these calculations? And start to see, again, we love a pretty graph. There are other Tiller community solutions. This is a monthly budget calendar. I love the visual on this. Planning out my spending, what day the account balances are going to go down. That's my jam. Again, because I don't budget. So I just want to make sure, that I'm never going to go below a baseline in my account. And I love the visual. Or track your small business in the business dashboard. They have all of that information, so you can have your business accounts flowing in as well, but have them separated out into their own dashboard and do some very cool things with that. This one was made directly by employees at Tiller. And there's support for all of these community solutions on their forums. So you have a question about how a sheet works or what you're trying to do with a sheet, there's somebody to answer it on their forums. All right, now we're going to edit some formulas. But you can see from this point forward, we still didn't have to know anything about spreadsheets to use this tool. So I don't know if anyone recognizes this. This was a tool called Net Worth IQ. It was all the rage in 2007. You put in your net worth and shared it publicly and compared it to other people. It's a good idea. Comparison. It's not the thief of joy or anything. And I was definitely competing really well, if you can read that. This is my second ever net worth update. I didn't share the first one because there's no change. That's not fun. So this is the first one where I had change. It was positive change, $290. Not bad. I had dropped out of college at this point, so that's really not bad. I had positive change that first month. But I used this for a number of years, and this was the second place I experienced data loss. Net Worth IQ went offline eventually, and I had been doing something very foolish. I had been using Net Worth IQ's images directly on my blog. I'd been hot linking. So my blog posts lost their graphs when Net Worth IQ went under. So this was the point at which I decided I needed a better solution to having my data be mine, and had it all in a spreadsheet. But I wanted it to look similar to how Net Worth IQ look, I don't have the graph here mostly for size, but also because it was a line for this month. You know, it was just the one line because this is a second update. So I wanted these same categories and everything, and new net worth tools and things that were coming out, they used different categories. They were just slightly different. I didn't like it. I wanted the flexibility to make it look like net worth IQ, but be my data that I owned. So in a spreadsheet, I made this, which is, I use new colors, but it's the same categories minus the ones I was never going to use, like annuities, and shared on my blog my own images uploaded to my own server. Thank you. From my Tiller spreadsheet. These values were filled in automatically by Tiller. This is a direct screenshot of my Tiller spreadsheet from my last public net worth update. I stopped sharing them publicly in 2019. So that's what you get. But it still looks like this. Flowed in automatically by Tiller each month in a spreadsheet that I control and I own. And even if Tiller itself goes under, that spreadsheet is mine. I never lose this information. I also made myself a CampFI worksheet and I shared it publicly. But my version, this is the public version. You have some inputs where you put in your information, but my version in my Tiller sheet fills in that currently invested assets box automatically. It's pulling from my accounts, it's getting the data and finding out what I have in my FI accounts and updating this immediately so I know how far away I am from CampFI. Again, these are generic numbers, so don't infer anything from them, but I can just do that and it's just there. I also have a savings snowball because frankly, I was a little bit jealous of people who had multiple debts to do a debt snowball. I know that sounds silly. But after I paid off my credit card debt from college, I just had student loans, a big student, but it was just student loans. There was nothing to snowball. They'd been consolidated. It was one payment. So I was like, I can take this concept somewhere, and I made a savings snowball. I have my top priority goal, but the lower goals get a minimum payment. Tiller tells me how much extra I have to throw at that top goal every month. Just automatically calculates that out for me in a spreadsheet I made. And then I know what I can throw at that top goal this month to get a little bit closer. Again, you probably noticed this is from 2022. But at that time, new home was the goal. And if you've been talking to me this weekend, last year we bought a house. So that worked pretty well. All right, so you have more tinkering options if you want to tinker more. My tinkering is actually pretty basic, but you can download those Tiller community solutions, and because they're just spreadsheets, then you have it. You can do whatever you want with it. You want it to work differently, edit those formulas, make those changes. You can build your own dashboards and sheets like I did. You can make them much more complicated than I did if that's your jam, and build whatever you want in that spreadsheet. You could also link your Tiller sheets to other automation tools, such as, again, another one I don't usually have to say out loud, Zapier? Are we saying Zapier? Okay. Or If This Then That. These tools work really well with Google Sheets, so they're an easy connect to your Tiller data. So we're going to go back. Why Tiller money? Because it is your money data flowing into your spreadsheets automatically. And you have that freedom and flexibility. You can tinker or not tinker. You don't have to. Whatever you want. And you retain ownership and control over your data and calculations. And again, those 3 tenets of financial independence, what are you aiming for? You're aiming for automation. You're aiming for freedom and flexibility. And you're aiming for ownership and control. And that is what we're all hoping to achieve. All right. I've talked a lot about this tool. I want to open it up for discussion. I know there are a few people here who have used Tiller before. Do we have a few people who are willing to say that they would also answer questions? Because again, I build my basic spreadsheets, but other people may have other answers about what they've done. So I know we have Gavin. Okay. All right.